Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video, we would be learning about contract of bailment. If you like the video, do hit like button and please do not forget to subscribe to my channel for more videos related to finance, banking, insurance, mutual funds, etc. Now let's start with this one. So let's try understand meaning of bailment. A bailment is the delivery of goods by one person to another for some purpose without transfer of ownership. Now, whenever we are talking about bailment, you need to consider few points in mind, which are essentials for the formation of contract of bailment. Now, bailment must involve delivery of good by one person to another. So, first thing, there must be an involvement of delivery of goods by one person to another. And when we will come to contract of bailment, we will understand how there should be an agreement formed between two persons, the person who would be delivering the good and the person who will be receiving the good for a specific purpose. Okay, so in definitions you need to consider few points, that there is delivery of goods being involved for some specific purpose without transfer of ownership. Now, bailment involves possession of goods and not transfer of ownership, because what happened? Suppose there are two persons, A and B. Now, if A sells the good to B, B will be getting the transfer of ownership. B will be getting good as well as the ownership over that good by paying certain amount. Now, that would be a case of sale of goods, right? Because there is a specific sale happening between A and B, the ownership has been transferred, the good is now totally belonging to person B. But when we talk about bailment, there is no transfer of ownership. You need to consider there is no transfer of ownership, because if there will be transfer of ownership, it will be a case of selling of goods rather than bailment of goods. So when we talk about bailment of good, there is transfer of possession of goods. So possession will be given from one person to another person. It would be better to understand with examples. So for example, you went to a mobile repairing shop. Now you have some defects in your mobile and you want to get it repaired. So you went to mobile repairing shop and you provided your mobile to the technician. Now there is a contract of bailment being formed between you and the technician, where you have delivered your mobile to the technician and you asked the technician to repair your mobile and return it back to you, and for this purpose he would be charging you certain amount, and there is some specific criteria that whatever there are problems in the mobile that must be solved. And so this would be forming a contract of bailment, because you have given the possession of your mobile to the technician to repair your mobile and return back to you. You are not transferring the ownership. You are only giving the possession of your good to get the work done. Okay, so this thing you always need to consider in your mind. There are certain examples which I'll be quoting in between the different slides so that the concept would be more clear to you. Let's come to the second point. When the purpose is accomplished, the goods are to be returned or otherwise disposed of according to the direction of the person delivering them. Now you need to consider, when we talk about the case of selling of goods, the ownership is transferred and hence the good belong to the buyer and then it won't be returned back to the seller. But when we talk about contract of bailment, or in the case of bailment, you must notice that the goods are to be returned after the purpose is accomplished. So we took the example of mobile repair. So the mobile, after getting repaired by the technician, has to be returned back to you. So the ownership lies with you. Only the possession was transferred for a specific period of time to get the repair done. And after the purpose is accomplished, the good is to be returned back to you. Or otherwise, it can be disposed of according to the direction of the purpose delivering them. So there can be different contract of bailment, where if the person wants that the goods has to be disposed in a particular manner, so that can also form a part of agreement. But you need to understand that the good is being returned after the purpose is accomplished. So it's not like permanently the good is being given. So few things that you get out of this meaning of bailment, we will be considering it in the features of bailment one by one through specific points where it would be more easy for you to understand. Now, before that, let's look at the parties to the contract of bailment. So, there are two parties involved, bailor and the bailee. The person delivering the goods is called the bailor, and the person to whom goods are delivered is called the bailee. So, we took the example of mobile repair. I'm quoting the same example because it would be easy for you to relate and understand. So, when you delivered your mobile to get it repaired, you would be considered as the bailor, and the technician or the mobile repair or the person who would be repairing your mobile, he or she would be considered the bailee, because the person to whom goods are being delivered is called the bailee. So you would be the bailor because you are delivering the good, and the person receiving the good would be the bailee. Now let's come to the contract of bailment. So till now we were trying to understand the meaning of bailment. Now, according to the Indian Contract Act section 148. So section 148 defines the meaning of contract of bailment, and so that it could be more clear for you to understand. However, there are different sections which defines different terms and conditions related to the contract of bailment. But if we talk about specific definition or meaning of what is covered under contract of bailment, that is specified in section 148 of Indian Contract Act. So contract of bailment, when one person delivers to another certain goods to be used for a certain purpose, the contract is known as contract of bailment. The contract will specify the time for which the goods will remain with the person taking them. Other than that, there would be many other things that would be covered in the contract, like for what purpose it is being given and what precautions has to be taken, all these things. So contract of bailment specifies, and before understanding this contract of bailment, let me cite one more example to make it clear for you. So as we took the example of mobile repair, there can be other examples as well. So for example, if you give your clothes for laundry, right, there would also be a contract of bailment being formed between you and the person to whom you have given your clothes for the laundry purpose. So what happens, you are delivering your clothes, you are having the ownership. Once your clothes is cleaned, it will be returned back to you. So there is a contract of bailment formed between you and the person who would be providing you the laundry service. Okay, so you expect that the clothes would be returned to you after the cleaning, and you'll be paying certain charges for that. So there is a specific purpose, there is a specified time. The laundry service person would be telling you that after how many days he would be able to return you the clothes. So there would be a specified time, there would be a specified purpose, like in this case you are giving the clothes for cleaning, so that's a specified purpose. Now there is a time specified, a purpose specified, the contract is being the agreement is happening between you and the person who is providing the laundry service. So there is agreement being formed between you two, and thus it is forming a whole contract of bailment, right? Now let's move to features of bailment contract. Now one by one, if we will be when we will be covering all the points, we will understand that what are the essential points to make a contract, to make a particular agreement or contract, the contract of bailment. So first feature is bailment is a contract. Now what does this mean? Now you must have studied in chapters relating to contract, where there are certain points which establishes a particular agreement to form contract. I'll be telling you. So contract involves offer plus acceptance. When there are two party, there will be one party making you an offer, and the second party will be accepting that offer. So there should be offer plus acceptance if it has to be a contract. There should be a lawful consideration and object. Lawful consideration means there should be a particular good involved, and that too for a particular purpose. So lawful consideration and object along with free consent. So both the parties who are getting into this agreement, they should have free consent. They are not manipulated or violently made to do a certain action. So there should be free consent. So what we know that for an agreement to become a contract, there are certain criteria like offer plus acceptance should be there. There should be lawful object, lawful purpose, and consideration involved. There should be free consent of the parties. Now that's why bailment is also considered as a contract, because when you are delivering your good, you are making an offer, and then there is another party who is accepting your offer and is ready to perform the action as per the specified requirement. So there is a lawful consideration, which means a good is involved. There is a lawful purpose involved, and then there is offer plus acceptance with free consent, which means that both the parties, the one making the offer and one accepting the offer, both are agreeing to the same point. Now that's how bailment is also considered as a contract. So bailment is a contract is the first feature you should remember. Second is bailment is of movable goods. So if we talk about immovable goods like land or property, that cannot be considered under the contract of bailment. Bailment contract is only applicable to the movable goods. So we took the example of mobile or car. So those are the movable goods. We can't consider the examples like property, land and building, etc., because those would be immovable goods, and there is certain other contracts being formed to govern those kind of transfers, etc. So bailment would always be of movable goods. Bailment involves transfer of possession of goods and not the ownership. I already covered this point, that how it involves transfer of possession, and once the purpose is completed, the good is returned back to the bailer. Ownership is not being transferred. The transfer of goods under bailment is for temporary period. Obviously, when you are giving your goods for a specific purpose, for a specific action to be done, you need those goods back. So the contract which is being formed is for a temporary period and not a permanent basis. Again, taking the example of selling of goods. In selling of goods, what happens? You sold the goods as seller. There is someone buyer who is buying the good. Now that good is permanently going to be with the buyer, or he or she can decide what to do with the good. So there is a transfer for a permanent period of time. However, in case of bailment, when you are giving certain good, you expect the goods to be returned back to you after the purpose is accomplished. So here, the transfer of good is being done for a temporary period, for a specified time period. The goods must be delivered to the bailee. Again, it must be noticed that the goods has to be delivered to the bailee, then only it would be a contract of bailment. The bailer has the right to the return of goods. Again, we have touched the same point, that as a bailer, if you are giving your goods, you need those goods back after the purpose is accomplished. Coming to duties of bailer. So first is duty to disclose all known defects. Now there was a case in which two parties were involved, supposedly A and B. So what happened, that A lended a horse to B for riding. Now A was totally aware that the horse was vicious, which means the horse was violent and wasn't able to be controlled by a human. After knowing this fact, A didn't disclose this fact to B and lended the horse as a contract of bailment. Now B was thrown away by the horse and got seriously injured. Now B claimed the injuries from A, and here A was held liable because he, after knowing the defect of the good involved, that was the animal involved, he didn't disclose the fact and tried to manipulate things or did it with a wrong intention. So this is a duty of bailer to disclose all known defects, because in this case, if there would be any harm to the bailee to whom the goods is being provided, the bailee is having full right to claim compensation or to take actions against the bailer for not disclosing the facts. Okay, so this is duty of bailor to disclose all known defects which is related to the goods and which can harm the bailee in one way or another. Let's come to second point, duty to bear necessary and extraordinary expenses. So if there is any extraordinary expenses happening related to the good provided to the bailee, that would be the responsibility of the bailor to bear any such expenses. Duty to indemnify loss for premature termination of bailment. So it may happen that the bailor decided to terminate the contract. Terminate the contract means to stop the contract before the time period. Now in this case, if there is any loss happening to the bailee because he was expecting that the contract will be fulfilled and he will be paid the full amount, and that's why he was involved in the goods by taking due care of the goods. And after that, if it was terminated, if the contract was terminated before the time period, there may be a loss suffered by the bailee. And in that case, because it was bailor's decision to for premature termination, any loss that has been incurred by the bailee for such premature termination need to be indemnified by the bailor. Duty to indemnify the bailee against the defective title of the bailor. So it may also happens that the bailor has given defective title of the owner, and now the bailee is suffering losses because of that. So what happens? Let's take the example of the laundry. Okay, so you provided your clothes to the laundry and you asked for the cleaning. Now you on a phone call you are telling that those clothes were not yours, and now that clothes need to be delivered to some another person. So in that case, the bailee can refuse to do so because who is the bailee over here? The bailee is the laundry person who is cleaning your clothes. Now he expected that the clothes is of yours, and thus he said that after the clothes will be cleaned, he would be coming to your address and will be delivering the clothes to you. Because the address was reachable, he agreed to the contract. Now after this contract was formed, you said that now you asked the laundryman to deliver the clothes to some another person. You said that the clothes was not yours and it was of some third person, and now the bailee or the laundryman has to deliver the clothes to that person. Now that person's address is beyond the reach of bailee, or he is not ready to take that much of efforts or incur that much of expenses because he was not aware about the who exactly is the owner of the goods or who exactly is holding the title of that particular good. So here is a case of defective title where the bailor didn't disclose who originally was the owner of the particular good, and after that the contract was formed, there are changes being made. So in that case, if the bailee has to incur any extra expenses or any loss, so that need to be indemnified by the bailor. So these are the duties of bailor. Now let's come to rights of bailor. What all are the rights that the bailor has? So first is right to claim damages in case of negligence from the bailee. Now it may happen that the fault is of bailee. In many cases, it's not always that the fault is of bailor only. So it can also be of the bailee who is holding the goods, who is having the transfer of possession. So what all are the rights of the bailor in those kind of cases? So right to claim damages in case of negligence from the bailee. Now let's take the example of the car which you gave in a workshop to get it repaired. So let's assume this example that a car has been delivered for repair to a workshop dealer. Now the car was used personally and it got damaged in an accident by the mechanic. So the mechanic to whom the car was delivered, and he was supposed to do the repairing of the car, but insteadly he started using the car for his personal purposes, and meanwhile he got into an accident because of which there was more damages to the car which was irreparable or any such incident. Now here, A being the bailor can terminate the contract or can ask for compensation from the bailee who is the mechanic. Now his responsibility was to repair the car and then return back to the bailer. But what he did, he used it for personal purposes and increased the damage that was there to the car. So he increased the intensity of the damage. Now he was not allowed for any personal use, and second, all the extra damages that happened to the car was because of him. So here, the person who has given his car after the trust that it would be held only for the repair purpose, and because that trust has been broken, there is the promise has been the promise has been the trust has been broken. So it is not so in this case, the what bailer can do, he can ask for compensation or he can terminate the contract, which means he can stop the contract and he can ask for the losses that has been incurred by the car and all that purpose. He can also sue the bailee for doing such specific thing. So there can be different cases in which sometimes bailer is negligent, sometimes bailee is negligent, and thus the rights should be properly communicated to both the parties. So, right to claim damages in case of negligence from the bailee, because here the negligence was of the bailee. He used the cars for his own personal purpose, which was not mentioned in the contract. And when the damage was severe, he has to pay the compensation to the bailer. Right of termination of the contract in case of unauthorized use of goods, right of compensation in case of unauthorized use of goods. So both are the rights provided to the bailer. So he can either terminate the contract, stop the contract, or he can ask compensation for the damages or the loss that he had suffered because of bailee. Right to claim compensation in case of unauthorized mixture of the goods which cannot be separated. So to understand this point, we have to take another example. Now let's suppose A gives 100 sacks of wheat to B. Now B, without A's consent, mixes the wheat with other brand of wheat or maybe with other grains. Now that becomes difficult to separate, and that wasn't even a part of contract. A comes to know that he's premium quality wheat that he provided to B for a specific purpose that has been intentionally mixed with other grains which cannot be separated now. So now A has to suffer loss because of this, and in this case, because of unauthorized mixture of goods by the bailee, bailer can sue the bailee and can ask for compensation and can take actions or sue the bailee in the court for this purpose, which was not a part of contract. So here the intention of bailee was wrong, and it was a wrongful practice to do by mixing other grains with the quality of wheat that has been provided by the bailer. So there are many such cases. Now this provides the right to the bailer to claim the compensation. Right to demand return of goods. Obviously, we understood in this whole contract of bailment that the goods must be returned back to the bailer after the purpose is accomplished. Now, that's make the bailer hold the right to demand the return of the goods after the purpose is completed or the timeline is reached. Okay. Right to claim compensation in case of unauthorized retention of goods. So maybe in the contract there was a specific timeline mentioned that after a month I will be getting back my goods. But even after 1 month, the bailee has not returned the goods and is having an unauthorized retention of goods. Now in this case, the bailer has the right to claim compensation from the bailee because he intentionally held the good with himself and did not return it back to the bailer. The goods must be returned. Now let's come to duties of bailee. So it is duty of bailee to take due care of the respective goods delivered to him. So either we talk about the clothes that we have provided in the laundry, the car we have given in the workshop to be repaired, the mobile we gave in the repair shop, all those goods that we are giving is under a part of contract of bailment, and that need to be properly the bailee need to take due care of those goods that has been delivered to him. So we saw different examples. In all the cases, it is responsibility of the bailee to take proper care of the goods. Okay. Duty to not make unauthorized use of the respective goods entrusted to him. So as we saw the example where we provided car in a workshop to get it repaired and it was used for personal purposes, and in that cases this is totally prohibited. Bailey should never do that. He or she should not make unauthorized use of the respective goods which is being entrusted to him as part of a contract or agreement. Duty to not combine mixed bailed along with his own respective goods. We took the example of wheat which was mixed with other grains by the bailee, and then the compensation can be asked by the bailer, and the bailee can be sued in the court as well. So it is duty of the bailee to not combine mixed bailed along with own respective goods. So you can't make mixtures, you can't combine one good with your own good. You need to keep the goods separate and take proper care of the goods that has been provided to you, the possession that has been provided to you. Duty to return the goods. As we saw, the bailer is having the right to get the goods back. So in the same way, it is the duty of the bailee to return the good back to the bailer within the specified time period after the purpose is accomplished. Let's come to the rights of bailee. Right to claim reimbursement of expenses, if any. So if there is any kind of expenses being involved in taking care of those goods, it can be claimed by the bailee. Right to recover damages for the losses in case bailer refuses to take the goods back. So if the bailer has purposely refused that he don't want the good to take back now and he would be taking after some time, so for that purpose the bailee has to provide a storage space for the goods that is being involved for a specific time period, for a time period which has extended more than it was mentioned in the contract. So in this case, if there is any extra expenses being occurred or any losses that has occurred, that need to be recovered from bailer, and this is again right of bailee. He can recover damages. Right to recover damages for loss in case title of bailer is defective. So we took the example of title of bailer where you provided your clothes for laundry and later on you said that those clothes are not mine, it belonged to someone else, and now you are asking the laundryman to deliver it to someone else's address which is far beyond the reach, and maybe he would be incurring extra expenses which was not as per the contract. So here the bailee is having the right to recover any damage which happens because you are negliging the contract terms and conditions, and he can also ask for extra expenses that has occurred in between all those actions to be taken. Okay, so thank you for watching. I hope this was clear to you to make you understand the contract of bailment. And one more important point which I forgot to put into the slide, but let me just tell it to you because it is mostly asked in the exams. The amount that you deposit in a bank account, like in saving account or current account, that is not considered a case of bailment, because what happens, the bank is obliged to give you a certain amount of money, but it is not exactly in the same currency or the coins that you have deposited. So that is not the case of bailment. In bailment, what happens, the particular good that you gave, you are getting back the same good after a specific purpose. So in bank deposits, the money that you have deposited in saving or current account, you are not getting the same currency that you deposited. Okay, so that is never considered as contract of bailment. However, if you as a customer, you are hiring locker from the bank and you are providing your valuable items to be kept in a bank locker for safe custody, that would become a contract of bailment and you would be provided your goods back after the custody period is over. So safe custody, locker for safe custody is a contract of bailment, but any deposit that you keep as saving or current account, that's not a contract of bailment. I forgot to put this in a slide, sorry for that, but right now I am mentioning. And thank you so much for watching. If you like the video, do hit like button, and please do not forget to subscribe to channel.